Ah, how quaint. Good evening, guys. Happy fucking set sun. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far, guys. Tonight we're going to be doing more of the OW2s. Yesterday we tried out some tweaking, which I had to do live. And it basically went as well as you'd expect it to have gone, which is it didn't go well at all. So, yeah. I guess we'll see how things go tonight here, guys. Get into the doing. Wait for my coffee to finish brewing. Ah, it rhymes. And go from there. I'm late as per usual, guys. Had some Twitter fires to put out. It usually goes... Some things, if they're taken completely out of context, guys, are really fucking bad. So you gotta make sure make sure they're in the correct context. Otherwise, people will try and put it in the wrong context, because that's how you easily win arguments. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening, though. Yeah. Good. More OW2s. We had some really good games last night. This morning, when I played, not so great. I don't know what's going on. Felt like my aim was off. It was really weird. Take a look at what's going on in the tubes here, guys, and go from there. I guess I should actually see whether or not my channels are broadcasting properly, too. After shenanigans. It should be. My internet not working. DNS server's not working? Not a good sign. Title page is unresponsive. That works. I believe there's a bug with Chrome. Yeah, I fixed it. Doing it. Oh, no, it works now. 1080p 60. Yep. So, one thing we learned yesterday is Kick will do 120 FPS, YouTube will not, and Facebook possibly sends my stream at 1080p at 30. Which it doesn't even tell you, mind you. Let's see here. Go here, we go cat frame X, we open this guy. Cause my computer to lock up for some reason. Can't actually use Chrome. I think Edge. Like this. That.
Capture started.
Capture started. Wait a second.
Capture finished.
Those 20-second intervals, I believe. Analysis. It is 60. I don't know what's going on here. I think that's because I started it when the on-screen display was open. Excuse me. So did 60. For some strange reason, benchmarking your web browser is actually incredibly difficult. Here, we go here, we go here. Nope, this is yesterday. Oh, that's actually a highlight. Here, here. Make sure that's on. This. On the OSD to disappear. There it goes.
Capture started.
And we do this. Good, good, good. Yeah.
Capture finished.
Wait. And good. So, YouTube, relatively 60 FPS. This could be due to my desktop. Could be the video stuttering too. Now I go Facebook. That. The odd one. Here. I do like the auto-generated subtitles. You don't get that on...
Capture started.
You don't get that on any other website. It's actually pretty cool. It helps a lot for people that watch with the volume down really low, off, or obviously people that are deaf as well, so... When we did this yesterday, it was all sorts of fucked up, but that might have been because I was streaming using the wrong bit rates. YouTube still looks the best, but what's the point if you have unlimited bitrate if you can't actually use it? So Facebook is basically about 30 FPS. Now, I think you actually need to be part of the level up program in order for you to actually have access to 1080p 60. So, by CatFreeMix. All right, let's see what's going on in the tubes. Okay. I'm going to get coffee, guys. My coffee real quick here, and then we are going to take a quick look. Oh. 20 puzzles? Hell yeah. That's how you're probably actually doing some other... Oh, I wanted to take a look at this, too. The changes. Apparently, so Intel released an updated, basically like MSI Afterburner, updated suite of tools to benchmark. But it's a little bit different than everyone else. So it's for their video cards, but it might be able to be used for something else. Let's take a look at this. I want to see that first and foremost. Also, apparently I don't have YouTube open on my main PC. You guys can see this. This doesn't matter. Super secret stream key is hidden. Hush hush. Yeah. There you go. Now I can look at all your beautiful messages on YouTube. And I still don't have Facebook open on my main PC, mainly because no one watches Facebook. Like, I've been streaming, I think we got a couple, like 3 people. I think we got a grand total of 3 people on Facebook that commented on my videos over the last 2 months I've been streaming there. So, close YouTube? I did, didn't I? Yeah? Hardware Unboxed is going back to the OG. Driver overhead. That might actually be worth looking at too. Driver overhead is actually different. AMD video cards actually perform really well with a low-end CPU compared to NVIDIA. If you guys didn't know that, if you have an older CPU, AMD video cards have less overhead than NVIDIA and actually perform a lot better than NVIDIA does. You wouldn't think so. Like, you'd think it's linear between CPUs, and CPUs are irrelevant within reason, but if your CPU is getting maxed out, you actually might do a lot better with an AMD video card than an NVIDIA video card, regardless of what they look like on the best CPUs. We're going to take a look at this too, not tonight though, we don't have enough time. I'm going to go grab my coffee, guys. I want to take a look at Intel's benchmarking. See what this is about. Seriously.
Today, we're talking about a
Linus?
potentially revolutionary new metric coming to CPU and GPU monitoring.
This is so
it's called
loud.
GPU Busy, and it gives us some insight to what happens here in the frame rendering pipeline. Historically, this is an area where consumers lose any visibility, and a new
It's like
addition
peripheral,
to an
the
open
peripheral
source tool
pipeline.
called PresentMon will be adding that transparency, and it's also getting an interface with a real-time overlay added, similar in some ways to After.
Just kind of, it is 60, but just as a segue here, every sort of live video, any sort of live video, not movies, should always be in 60 FPS or higher. In my personal opinion, always should be in 60 FPS. In 4K, before you even go to 4K or 8K, it should always be in 60 FPS. Especially if you walk around outside. Big deal. Big deal.
This tool, and so do most reviewers. It's just getting updated with a new metric, and that metric has a clear potential to be as big as 1% lows and 0.1% lows and frame time data within the review space.
Pretty big.
And frame times were the last major review revolution, so we're due.
Oh my god, he's mentioning Tech Report. He's actually referencing where he got the data from, guys. Holy shit, like this is like the Bible for tech reviewers is Tech Report.
And
this right here, the Tech Report, they actually cut off the website because Tech Report isn't what it used to be. It used to be a treasure trove of benchmarking, but he literally cut off the website so you can't see what website this is. Wow! I mean, their website is basically like gambling and shit now. It's not like someone bought it and it's not what it used to be, but holy fuck. Hey, Vilu. Good evening, dude. If I play 60 FPS video on Chrome uses at least 50% of my CPU. It shouldn't. That means you have hardware acceleration turned off? Slain? Videos have been able to use hardware acceleration for videos for the last... for H.264 for probably 2 decades at this point. No, that's okay. Vilu, I'm completely alright with not reacting to something that you're probably paid to get me to react to. So... But holy shit, this is like I said, this is one of the companies, one of the websites that actually made me kind of want to do tech review. But as I mentioned, there's absolutely zero money. There's absolutely zero money in tech review. So yeah, tech tubing. There's basically no money. The treasure trove, the not treasure trove, the pinnacle of tech tubing is basically Linus Tech Tips, which is techtainment. It's not even tech tubing anymore.
frame times were the last major review revolution, so we're due. GPU Busy helps to have a clear understanding of where CPU or GPU bottlenecks exist, and it also
So this is when it's waiting for the CPU to finish work, which you could figure out by looking at CPU utilization. Is this just the same thing as seeing CPU utilization that's maxed out and is hurting your FPS? I think it is. So this is possibly a way of discerning when you are CPU bottlenecked and the loss associated with CPU bottlenecking, which is, you know, when your video card overpowers your CPU, basically, is when it's waiting for your CPU to do shit. It's just sitting there by the time. So this actually could be really good as a simple metric, but it doesn't. I don't think this does anything new. We'll wait and see whether or not my conclusion here is exact, like it's actually what's happening here, but I'm pretty sure this is just a simplified version of seeing when your GPU is CPU bottlenecked.
Opens a floodgate for much deeper future insights that could potentially involve things like GPU memory pressure or other limiters for performance.
GPU memory pressure. What?
Insights that could potentially involve things like GPU memory pressure.
Fuck's GPU memory pressure?
Or other limiters for performance. This will be
so bottlenecking once again. GPU memory pressure. I think that I hate when casters do this. This isn't particular to Gamers Nexus, but if you cast, like I used to do, like play Dead by Daylight, and I would come up with terms, like things that are unique, and I used to have a list of texts. I think it's BS Text. If you use exclamation point BS Text on Twitch, I didn't transfer because there's almost no bots that like work with YouTube, Facebook, or Kick. Like almost nothing works with that. Like Nightbot's what I used to use, nothing works with it. So like my commands haven't really been transferred, but I came up with all sorts of tech, and what I would see people doing is other streamers, a couple big ones I could think of, Winter, as well as what's his name? True Talent. True Talent later on started talking about the same things, they just named it something different. And that's because it was an underused term, and they tried to rebrand the term so that it would be known to their channel instead of where it came from. This isn't particular to Gamers Nexus here. Memory pressure would be memory bound, being limited by your memory bottleneck. So if you don't have enough memory and it constantly has to go to your system memory, then it's going to show you memory pressure. The fuck is that? If you are memory bound and it has to go out to your system memory constantly, it creates a lot of basically waiting, which is another one. So this is basically coming up with wait time and putting a number to something that you can figure out on your own. So this isn't revolutionary, I would say, as much as evolutionary. I think that's the general go-to. But evolutionary, which is where they're looking at something that's already there. It's like frame time wasn't really something. I mean, it existed because it exists. Everything exists, right? Whether or not we have a term for it or not. But in this case, this is something that people already do. They already pick out. With prior to frame time, this is not comparable to frame time. Frame time prior to that, frame time is the amount of time that it takes your GPU to render a single frame. FPS is a metric of frames per second, so the amount of frames over a second. But that doesn't tell you can have a frame of 10 ms, and you can have a frame of 100 ms, and then it'll average out to what, like 55 FPS, right? So you'd be probably, that's not right, 55 ms, which would be, now I have to fucking do complicated shit. 1,000, no, go away. 1,000 divided by 55, 18 ms, or that's the wrong way. 18 FPS. Is that right? I think I am. Wrong way. That'd be 60,000 divided by 60. So 60 FPS is 16 ms. If it was all exactly 16 ms, it would be 16. What is 50? I mean, you can multiply that by 1,000. It's not gonna. Well, actually, maybe it would. That didn't work right. Let's see. 100 ms would be 10 FPS. I'm doing this wrong, so you can't just go the opposite direction. I think you need to do something mathematical here. I'm losing out on math. So you get milliseconds, so frame time is your FPS. 1,000 divided by your FPS because there's 1,000 ms in a second. But if you go the opposite direction, you multiply it by 1,000, it doesn't go back to FPS. I don't actually know how to get back. Mathematically, there's a weird way of doing this, and I don't know what it is. I mean, we could brute force it, though. 20 FPS. So, trial and error.
Be a tactical discussion about how rendering
Either way,
generally works
frame time
when
is
in a
amount of
pipeline, and it'll focus
time
on
per
the
frame, but an
educational
FPS is an
aspects
average
understanding
of
how
the
game
frames in a
graphics
second.
get shown to the screen via the CPU and GPU. So to talk about this metric, we need an expert to help explain the rendering pipeline first,
Intel
and
guy.
then GPU busy. We'll be joined by someone who's talked with me about this very topic 7 years
It's
ago,
Intel guy.
back when he worked at NVIDIA. And although he's doing engineering at Intel these days, Tom Peterson is ultimately an enthusiastic engineer who can help us understand how the pipeline works and what GPU busy does. Before that, this video is brought to you by Squarespace.
Squarespace.
Audience pipeline.
GPU busy's big. So what we're showing here is
It's not really frame time. Like, it's not as big of a deal as frame time. This is just giving you an easy to understand metric for bottlenecks that are affecting your GPU.
Manipulating I/O, and you're calculating what does the new game look like, and then it does something called a CPU render, where you're converting that like game view of the world into commands that DirectX knows. So it's like, you know, compile a shader, use a texture, move some geometry, here's some pixels, and then once that's all set to the kind of DX pipeline, there's a command called present, which is the last thing the render does. And once present's called, then DX runs, the driver runs, it does its compiling, all that kind of stuff. And once all the commands are generated by the driver and stuff, it sends it down to the GPU.
I have no idea who that
actually
is, Slim.
begins to draw pixels, does all the mathematics. Now, the next thing that's happening is the game begins the next frame after a period of waiting. And it'll do
And
the
we'll talk more about this in a little bit, too.
well, this is the key thing, like
Yeah.
why is it waiting, right?
Right.
And then similarly, why is the render so long? And the key thing is this frame time.
This is something people
measured
generally
between
figure
these
out,
two
mind
presents.
you,
And
on
a
their own by
present
looking
log
at,
already reports that as milliseconds between presents.
especially if you're a tech
So at the
tuber,
end
you
of
should
the
already
day,
be
there's a
doing
lot
this
of
by
interesting
looking at
things
memory
happening in
usage
this wait,
and
there's a lot of
CPU
interesting things
utilization
happening
per
in this
core.
render, but the key thing is how does the render compare to the frame time?
And let's bring it back one step more basic to just frame
Ideally,
time.
they should be
We'll
almost
present a
identical,
bar
or
chart
0.
That typically shows frame rate. So we'll show average, we'll show 1% lows, 0.1% lows. Frame rate is an abstraction away from the base metric of time.
Yeah, this is the computer generating a frame, then it's waiting for the GPU to draw the frame, and then the frame goes on the screen. You just do this over and over and over, and that's what the motion of a game is.
Right. And then the new stuff, I think you have
Yeah, let's go on
next.
to the slide.
And we're going to come back in detail on all this stuff in a
Yeah.
minute. But give me the preview of this.
Okay, the preview is blue is what we're all used to. Blue is frame time. This is showing you Overwatch 2 1080p. And people are used to, like, you know, things that are going up and down and jerky like this are not good because that's generally micro stutter. It's kind of like a jerky feeling. But now we're showing you GPU busy. And it's interesting because GPU busy is how long is the GPU rendering, and what you would expect in a perfect world is something more like this, where the CPU and GPU are about the same height, they're nice and tight. That means the CPU is not gating the GPU. But in this case over here, the CPU is doing something, we don't know exactly what, but it's definitely causing the GPU to be less busy.
Right.
And that's not great.
And this tool is, so this is part of PresentMon, which is already publicly available.
So, by
to
the way,
open
nailed
source.
it.
Intel is, I don't know if the only contributor or just the main contributor, but
I'm not sure if we're the only one. It is public. There
Right.
are other contributors, but Jefferson Montgomery's been working on it for years. He's a great engineer. It is open source. People can take a look at it, and we're going to continue that model.
So,
and that's
Wouldn't-
actually
wouldn't,
why I think most reviewers at this point use a version of PresentMon to capture frame data when we're benchmarking games. So basically, Tom's update here is, hey, we're taking this thing that everyone's already using, we're adding to it.
Making it better.
Yeah, and so this GPU busy metric, a simple way to think of one of the most immediate uses as an end user, if you're really into stats and things that you have no control over, but you want to understand why performance is the way it is.
yeah, I think where this is really helpful is for people that don't really understand bottlenecks at all. Depending on how it's presented to the end user, if it's presented just like FPS and it's a very easy to read number, especially if it says mem or VRAM or CPU as an indicator of what's doing it. So potentially this could actually figure it out for you, what's actually being bottlenecked.
You could think of the gaps as giving you some insight as to where might a particular type of bottleneck be occurring.
Yeah, exactly.
I think is the simplest
It
version.
is.
Yeah,
And-
but this
and
is something you can figure out
take action
even
to
without
try to
this
make
metric.
look
This
better.
isn't like
if you see
this is
the
just a
GPU,
way
and we'll talk
of
about
putting
this
into
in
terms something
presentation,
people
but
are
when
already
it's
doing.
not balanced, that's not the end of the story.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And
Which I'm not
to,
against, by the way. This will
also
help
give
end users
baseline,
out a lot, especially if it's
I asked you
implemented
this
in
question
something
earlier,
like
but the idealistic
Steam
perfect world
or
version of these
What do
two
people? What do the
lines,
kids
that looks
use?
like.
There's no perfect, but the way I like to think about it is, in general, when you have a decent
Game bar.
sized GPU load, you should expect this to be
Stuff the
basically
kids
on
just
top
already
of
have
each other,
installed that gives
You
them an
don't want
idea
the
of what's
GPU
going on on their
limiting
screen.
the CPU, you don't want the CPU limiting the GPU. You want it to be sort of balanced. We talked about that in a Q2 balance build update, where we basically did a whole bunch of testing and said,
So this,
Core
from what I
i5
understand, because
is
it's
the right
GitHub,
CPU for a
means
750.
that pretty much anyone
This
can use
data
this.
will help you
So
understand why. We'll talk a little bit about now. We've done a DX11 update. The summary, right? It's 22% faster on DX11, 26% faster for percentiles. Now the cool thing is, it's 22%.
99th percentile doesn't matter. What matters is 1% and 0.1%. But the thing about 99th percentile means it could be the 99% of all frames, which is what Tech Report used to do, and I graded them for way back in the day. When instead they should be looking at 1% and 0.1%, they were looking at 99th percentiles. But then they also, after a copious amount of arguing, they also started adding the metric which is beyond metric, which is how long renders happen beyond a certain time. So beyond 16.6 ms, which is 60 fps. So how much time, how many frames are beyond 16.6 ms? The more, the worse it is. And it's another way of kind of doing 1% and 0.1% that is more confounded and harder to do. But when you're talking to people that basically, like, they want to be seen as the root of all information that ever existed, like scientists, not accommodations, compromises are, whatever. And it's just another, it still kind of does the same thing. So never really, it wasn't the same thing as 1%, 0.1%, but very close. But 99th percentile could mean they're looking at the 1% of frames, or they could be looking at the 99% of frames, which is cutting out the worst 1% outliers, which is what Tech Report used to do to give more consistent results and less prone to error from random things happening back in the back of your OS. Random things happen in your OS all the time. You have to substitute that with number of runs and data points.
Faster on Core i5 based systems, but 11% faster on Core i9 based systems.
Yeah, so this is actually really interesting. One of the things we'll talk about with the PresentMon updates is there's some change to ability to identify things like driver overhead.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Which right now I think is the catch-all. I don't know what's happening, but something's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. But I think this is kind of like a conundrum. Like, why 22% on Core i5, but less on Core i9? So what we did is updated PresentMon to help people understand a little bit more. So it's like the next click down on GPU performance without getting a doctorate in graphics architecture, right?
Sure.
All right, so here we go.
I mean,
so,
if you think you are CPU bound, guys, just open up Task Manager, keep it in the background, look at your cores, and then particularly look at whatever core might be maxed out. If you have one core running at 100%, less than that if you have hyperthreading on. I do not have SMT on, which is hyperthreading for Intel. SMT is hyperthreading for AMD. Hyperthreading is Intel. I don't have SMT on, but if you look at this graph here and you see the cores that it's running on, the cores it's running on, assumingly most people will let it run on everything, and you see one running at 100%, that means you're CPU bound. If you're playing a game and a thread's not at 100% or 90%, if you have SMT or hyperthreading on, it'll be about 45%. When you get over 50%, you're basically CPU bound on a single core. Assumingly both threads are being utilized. If it's usually what Windows does now, but not all the time, is it intelligently breaks down SMT and turns it off, but not all the time, so it avoids overloading your cores. That does not always work. It does not always happen, it does not always work. There's a lot of asterisks here, so maybe this is a good metric as things are becoming more and more complicated as I'm explaining this to you guys, right? But if you have two cores that are part of the same SMT like CPU, so the same physical CPU, they're two virtual cores that are part of the same single physical core, and both of them are at 50%, that means that core is running at 100%. They can go higher than that. You can see 60, or sometimes when you're doing things like a synthetic benchmark that can be as high as 100% on both synthetic cores. That's going to be a really bad experience if you are playing games on that. You don't want that at all. When they get above 50% for both virtual cores, that means you're CPU bound. But SMT, in my personal opinion, and hyperthreading causes stuttering, or it barely helps, which is one of the reasons I have it off all the time. I don't even bother turning it on anymore. I've had it off for probably the last decade at this point. Yeah, I think last decade on both AMD and Intel. It is something that purely helps with synthetic. But anyways, having it off also makes graphs easier to understand and causes less contention where Windows fucks up, because Windows does a lot of derpery in the background and doesn't always do things properly. But if you have one core that's at 100% on your game, that's your game running, is at 100%, that means you're CPU bound, and your GPU is going to take a hit to performance simply because it doesn't have enough threads and like enough CPU oomph to keep it going. But hardware benchmarkers should be doing that anyways. I've actually criticized some for not doing that, mind you, and you can kind of tell when they do that. They don't do it.
This is what everybody's seen before. This is frame time. You know, we know already, we talked about this picture, frame times are moving through, and we've got GPU render and we've got flip. But the key thing I want to highlight is as the game does its stuff and then the CPU converts it into graphics calls, we've got this weird wait. Now the wait can happen for a lot of different reasons. It can happen because, you know, DX is doing some stuff, or it can happen because the driver's doing some stuff, or it could happen because you're waiting on a prior render to free up resources. So digging into this wait is kind of an interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
Similarly,
So it could be an engine efficiency problem too.
When the GPU began its work until the GPU finished its work, but it can be stalled for a whole bunch of reasons.
So what are some examples of, let's go into that, like in GPU render, what really is the GPU doing? What are some examples of game graphics, objects, etc.?
Now, I think what's really important here is just not giving people a number for the GPU render. I think it's also giving them a word of what's actually causing the wait. And the Intel could figure this out for you. If I can figure it out, Intel can figure it out, right?
Normally happening is, think of it like you're running a shader. And the way a shader program works is it's just a program that's basically saying, I'm trying to draw the color of a pixel. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take all pixels and I'm going to run it in parallel, all running the same program, but they're all going to get different data, and basically it's a lot of math that you run across a lot of parallel cores. That's a fundamental thing you're trying to do. But if you're reading a texture, you may not have that texture on the GPU, so you stall to load that texture, right? Or you may not have
enough memory.
Fully all of your resources ready to
preloads, which is what a lot of games do.
Or sometimes there's dependencies between sort of the CPU stuff that's happening and GPU stuff that's happening, and you're stalled waiting on new work. So this is greatly simplified, but it's our first attempt to say there's definitely this thing called frame time, which is kind of a measure of what's happening on
Back
the CPU.
when I played PlanetSide 2, guys, the game actually had a really cool metric, which is pretty much like this, where it would tell you if you're either CPU or GPU bound. It's more rudimentary, but it basically did the same thing. Like I said, this isn't a concept that is purely, like it tell you CPU or GPU on the little FPS metric in the corner. And pretty much the same thing, but it actually give you an idea where to go. And I think that's really important if Intel does this, is they actually just, there needs to be a word. There needs to be a word associated with this, even if it's just, you don't know, it could be ETC or something, right? Words associated with this.
Busy, and they ought to roughly
So
be
end
about
user
the
can figure it
same
out.
in a well-balanced system. You know, the whole thing's pipeline, so once you complete the render, you
And
put it on the
assumably there's
screen,
always
and
going to be
while
something
you're
making
showing
your
new
computer
frame,
wait.
you're rendering
So
the next frame.
So let's talk about buffering and flipping. For this, what does flip mean in this context?
Okay, flip is when you've completed rendering a new frame, you're ready to put it on the screen, but you might have VSync on, or you might have other things happening in Windows, but eventually you want to show it on the screen. And the reason there's a thing is because that's when Windows is going to flip the buffer that's being displayed to your new image. And you can start reusing what you used to be showing. That old image can be used, that buffer, for new rendering. Wait's cool too. So you can imagine the sequence of events is DirectX is doing translation from the calls, talking to our driver. And the driver is kind of converting abstract commands into things that are specific to Intel hardware. So you can almost think of it as a translation layer between standardized DirectX commands and Intel hardware, but it's also doing a lot of context creation, it's doing a lot of resource management, and eventually it starts work on the GPU by sending commands to a hardware queue. Right? And so this thing just kind of runs its all way. So it can get stopped up because the GPU is so busy from the last cycle that it can't take new work. So in which case you would stall here. It could be stopped because you have to go read from a texture, or you got to go read a shader and recompile it, and that takes a long time before you can begin your work. And so now you're waiting and waiting and waiting for that compile to happen. So lots of reasons why you can wait, and we're going to expose more of that as we continue to build out this tool. Steve already alluded to you want lower, and it's kind of the inverse of FPS, right?
Right.
So this is showing you GPU busy. Now the cool part about it is in Overwatch 2, there's periods of times when you are balanced, so you could call this sort of GPU limited. And then over here, there are times when you are not, and you could call that CPU limited, right? So this whole CPU, GPU limited thing, this is the next click to show you, are you, right?
Yeah, and there are ways to approximate it. So the simplest way as an end user is like open task manager or something, and just look at the load percent. It's not always going to tell you the actual answer.
Yeah.
But for easy cases, that'll probably identify.
Here every day, guys.
This, however,
Here every
as
fucking
a
day.
reviewer,
Like 20
this should give us
CEOs
some
in one.
additional tools to try and explain the results we have.
Yeah.
Which I think is important because end of the day, the raw number is what really matters for how does it perform. But it's nice to try and actually,
Like I said,
why.
this needs to be paired with a simple word: memory, VRAM, CPU, GPU if the GPU is the one limiting it, but there'll probably always be something else limiting it. Just like this is kind of the same thing that AMD does, or I think AMD and NVIDIA both do this. So if we look at this GPU Z, it'll always give you a reason that your performance is capped. It's called perf cap. And it's not always bad. There'll just always be something, and it'll give you a reason why the performance is capped. Right here, thermal, which is temperature. You have VREL, which is your reliability or voltage. VOP, which is your operating voltage, and idle, GPU utilization, meaning it's not being utilized, right? So this is actually something that's found on both AMD and probably Intel too, and NVIDIA, as a reason why your GPU is basically not performing, or can perform better, but it can't. Perf cap. This is basically the same thing, only for the render pipeline. But it needs to have the simple wording and a simple reason as to what's doing it, not just a number. If it's just a number, which you could figure out,
Yeah, I think so.
Because
it's the simple language, because it seems like that's what they're trying to tackle. They're trying to tackle the end user, right?
Well, CSGO is a great example where we had a frame time plot in our review of the ARC cards. CSGO was
It could be more
problematic.
complicated. That'd also
More
be
recently, when we
great.
retested it, and I think it was the February update,
That's DX9 update, yeah.
DX9, yeah, it was functionally resolved as compared to launch, especially. And so having tools like this allows us to say, is this a solvable issue?
That's another way to
right?
look at
Not
it.
really. I
Or
think
is
tech
it, for
tubers, if
example,
they're
if it's a
intelligent,
gaming
would have
issue,
been able to figure out pretty
you're
much
no
any of
longer
this.
Really reviewing the GPU, you're
I don't think this really adds anything to
and
tech
you
tubing.
can isolate by looking
Everyone
at
else
multiple
does.
GPUs or multiple CPUs or maybe even multiple settings, get a better sense of what's going on. All right, so now digging into a little bit, what is happening in that region where it's misbalanced? In this case, you would normally do game and then render, and now you have a long wait for any one of those millions of reasons. But eventually the GPU starts, and so there's this, in this picture, you're obviously doing some compiling or loading textures, and eventually the GPU starts rendering. Then once the render is complete, the game starts again. And in this case, there's no queuing because the GPU is idle basically, so work goes directly down to the GPU. But this would tell you, hey, there's something going on. It's not running optimally on the GPU. I either have something in the system that's not working, or the driver's got a problem, or the game's got a problem. Another way to look at it is in this case, where this is showing our old driver for DX11 with Overwatch 2. This is our new driver, and you can see right away we've fixed a lot of this CPU overhead that was present. But you would normally look at this and say it just got faster, but you wouldn't be able to really say anything about why. Until now, with GPU busy, this is our new driver, and there's GPU busy. Okay, so you're seeing right away that the headroom that was lost, kind of left on the floor, meaning the GPU is not active, it's all been recovered. And now GPU busy is right on top of frame.
Yeah, and this is an example of what you want.
Yeah, this is what you want to see. And this is why back in the day we said we still have work to do on the software, and we are knocking that down one by one.
Does Intel have tools that already provided that information?
Yeah, there's a whole, our driver architects and our performance architects have a whole suite of tools that are looking at much more complex versions than this, because if you think this is,
too.
I don't want to say grossly simplified, but this is, it's actually happening in a multi-threaded system with multiple different queues and multiple different processes, and that's very complex. This is simplifying.
So that's information you already had access to for internal use, like improving drivers, I guess.
Yep.
And then is this just the, hey, we want to present some version of this publicly?
Yeah, we want to up-level the conversation, right? So that people can start understanding, hey, what CPU should I buy and why? Or what GPU should I buy and why? And then maybe, is this game broken? What's going on?
So, a simple version of the question, where do you see this going? Because the more in-depth version is, originally, sort of before I was really reviewing stuff, the primary metric was just average FPS. I guess, depending on where you were, sometimes it was image quality. And then eventually, frame times came into the discussion in a big way. So PC Perspective and Tech Report were front running.
Oh my God!
And so
he referenced it. Does he watch my videos? Does he watch my videos? I pointed this out. I swear to God, I've never, ever heard Steve ever reference Tech Report ever. And that being said, Tech Report has been dead for probably the last 5 years, I would say. After the two major guys are running it, there were two really, really diehard guys that were in charge of stuff over there. They both left. One was Scott, and the other was Geoff. They both left. I still know their names. After they left, basically the whole thing trended downhill. Like, he tried to get his son to take over. He wrote like one article, and then he was done, which I can't blame him. If he's not into it, he's not into it. It doesn't matter whether or not, his parent wants him to take over. And then I believe they sold it off, and then they just stopped making articles.
The direction you're going with this...
It's still available, though. It's still online. That's the most ridiculous part.
I'm not sure.
I think it's like it promotes gambling and such now, gambling websites.
We're going to find that there's a lot of interesting things here.
Crypto.
And it's going to expose some inefficiencies. There's going to be some pain. Some people are going to get embarrassed. But, there's going to be some, some hurts. But I do think it's going to make us all better, smarter, better appreciators of the technology. So I'm an enthusiast. So this, for me, is just great. But I'm very curious how it's going to be received by the community.
Yeah, we'll do, I don't know if it'll be this video or not, but we'll look at the user
demo,
interface, interface as well for the public. What's your next
Probably
one?
not in this video.
So this is what happens when it looks balanced, right?
Sure.
So again, we talked about weight, and now in this case, the GPU render is happening, and it's taking the full time of the frame time. Now there's a lot going on here because this is showing you a GPU limited case, and there's queuing that's happening here that I'm not showing because it gets too complicated.
Sure.
But let's just say that when you are GPU busy and frame time approximately the same, that means you're either balanced or you're GPU limited. So now this is digging into the next level. This is showing you 1080p low, Counter-Strike 2. And in this case, you can see GPU busy with these spikes above it. This is zoomed in, and it's smoothed by the
so what's our
averages.
scale here? We're at a tenth of a...
Yeah, so like this is a frame, this is a frame, this is a frame.
Okay.
So it's a little bit misleading because it all looks curvy, but it's just individual frames.
Yeah.
But you can see GPU busy is generally flat, and there's still these spikes, so this is frame times. So this is not going to be a great experience. Now in this case, I would say the GPU load is super light. What happens if I change it to ultra? So in ultra, you're...
So we just moved from, what were we
low
at?
to ultra.
Okay, low to ultra.
Yeah, and
okay.
so
Utilization.
now the load is much more like 6 milliseconds, and you can see the CPU has time to get its work done. So it's just an interesting way to think about how should I tune
Maybe
my
not.
system.
Right.
Now here's both of them at the same time. Again, you can
They're just
see
more synchronized.
The CPU can't quite keep up with the GPU. The GPU's done, and the CPU still has work to do. But when the load gets higher, everything kind of balances out.
Let me ask.
This is like
typically
I said, this is something you've already, tech tubers have already been doing, or tech enthusiasts have already been doing. But for everyone else, this is actually this is a pretty big change for them. For everyone else that, like, even frame times aren't really, like, you guys can see my frame time graphs in the top right. I basically have on all the time because I finally got pissed off at saying this feels like and shit like that. I finally just took time to set up MSI Afterburner, and as far as I know, it has no performance impact. And it just runs there. So I can tell basically when a game is just derping out or when my brain's derping out. And you can tell the difference between the two. But even then, like, no one really discusses frame time at all. And to be fair, like, when you look at the metrics, I have like 1%, 0.1% in average FPS, but it still has a frame time graph on it because it shows you the immediate spikes. It shows you when something just happens and it's done.
You'll present it with the best possible CPU, right?
Yeah.
To limit bottlenecks on the CPU.
Yep. Why am I using Core i5?
Yeah.
Well, we do the same thing. So we use a Core i7 or a Core i9 often when we're doing benchmarking internally. What we found is that's not what end users do. And as you can see right away all through this presentation, there's huge amounts of optimizations that you need to do.
So Hardware Unboxed just released a video about
necessarily
optimizing drivers and how basically, well, it's not, we haven't watched it yet, but it's essentially like their videos earlier, which just looked at overhead for AMD drivers and NVIDIA drivers. And if you have a low-end CPU, you're actually going to benefit a lot more from an AMD GPU than NVIDIA. The reason it has nothing to do with horsepower of the GPU. It has everything to do with how optimized the drivers are and how much overhead the drivers have. And if they don't have the CPU that can power through it, it gets starved and basically dies. Like, it gets starved and your GPU performance just derps out and just plummets to the ground.
See on a Core i7.
Okay.
So for us, we're trying to be more responsive to the community that's attaching to a 750.
Sure.
So is that?
I think there is benefit to both these ways of looking at this. So I think they showed an i5 and i7 though, but it should be like an i5 and i9. So your highest end and then your average user and then probably a low end. Once again, as I mentioned before, like even Gamers Nexus doesn't really test what you need to test when it comes to certain things because you need to look at multiple cases. And regardless of your data being you know, it being reliable, your data being reliable, does it actually test what you need to test at the end of the day, right? You know, so if you're looking at new CPUs, you have to test a low end too and a high end, and depending even with new GPUs, it's not just about testing the GPU, because different CPUs are going to affect that GPU, right? Even though that technically kind of turns into a CPU test, it comes along the lines of what he's saying here and what Hardware in Box presented, which is you have a case in which a lot of users do not have an i9. They have an i5, and that's not the performance, or they're on an older CPU. Like i5 is multiple generations, right? They could be on even older, ancient stuff because they think all that matters is a GPU upgrade when it definitely doesn't.
To do on a Core i5, are you talking, are the optimizations you're talking about in driver, GPU drivers?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
then is it just a difference of
Ahead of Steve,
the higher
guys.
CPU brute force
Hey, what?
the problems?
Exactly. So if you imagine an infinitely fast CPU, you can have an infinitely inefficient driver.
Okay.
As you have
Obviously,
an
Steve
infinitely
hasn't been
lower,
watching
you know,
Hub.
more moderate
If
CPU,
you knew, instead
then
of
you have
fucking
to
around with
really
Linus,
fix a lot more
if he
things that
if he was
are
actually paying
inconsequential.
attention to
Or
tech tubing
coincidentally,
instead
like if you think
of
about the other
drama,
way, if you
maybe
have a
you'd
really
know.
low performing GPU, then you're 100% always going to be limited by
what?
that GPU, and it hides a lot of the CPU inefficiencies.
Yeah.
When we get into the discussion of driver overhead, just to bring that in for a second, sometimes you'll see GPU performance change. Or let's just take the traditional examples. So let's just take AMD and NVIDIA, because Intel wasn't in the game yet when I'm bringing this example up. AMD and NVIDIA traded leadership positions between platforms in ways that weren't created by the CPU itself.
Okay.
So I think our conclusion and some of the other reviewers just sort of said driver overhead, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Can you help me understand what is that?
is.
Right?
Yeah, I can, I think. I'm trying to think if I go back this picture here. Let's go back a couple. Here, okay.
By the
So
way, the
let's
big guy on the
pretend
right
that
definitely
you
knows
did
his
the
shit.
render on the CPU
And more
for the
important than
game,
that,
doing
he's
like
actually
this,
pretty,
okay,
he can put it into
render
human
logic,
terms, which
and
is
you got
actually really
this long
important.
wait. Well, what's happening first is there's DirectX, which the game is talking to DirectX, and DirectX has a bunch of processing it does before it talks to the driver. But at the end of the day, it's sort of translation a little bit. And now the driver has a bunch of work to do to get ready to execute on a GPU. Because if you think about it, the DirectX is kind of talking generically, and it says things like, use this geometry, use this shader, use these textures, and then execute, and then synchronize, and then use a different collection of textures. And so it's like this ballet that DirectX is telling our driver. Our driver steps back and says, okay, whew, that's a lot, that's a big load, right? So how about if I do a very fast compilation of the shader and send it down, and we'll start rendering, but then in the background I'll start recompiling so that the next time through it'll be much, much faster.
Okay.
So if you think about all the work that our driver does, it's multi-threaded, it's doing optimization. It's almost like a JIT compiler, where it's constantly looking for real-time optimizations based on the workload. So that means that this could either be really long or really short, and it could change based on frame to frame.
Right.
So driver overhead is like, there's a mini operating system that is the driver that basically is looking to find ways to optimize both the work that's happening on the GPU and the work that has to happen in the CPU before the GPU can start.
And I'll leave this part out of the discussion for now, but if any of that is interesting to you to learn more, then probably the next thing to look at would be API overhead.
There you go,
So
yeah.
That would be the next one,
Yeah.
which we've done videos about as well when
Yeah,
DirectX
that's actually
12
pretty
was-
interesting.
Yeah.
So let's go back to where we were. So as you can see, different configurations have different behavior in PresentMon. So let's talk about the new tool. All right, so people are familiar with the idea of PresentMon. You use PresentMon. And today it's kind of an SDK or a low-end service, and it's available on GitHub, and it's open source. Well, we've taken that and enhanced it. So now we're introducing Intel PresentMon Beta, and it's a beta, but it's an end user tool that's sort of user focused for the first time. It's got an overlay, it's completely configurable. It integrates telemetry. So now if you're using like an NVIDIA card, it'll use the NVIDIA telemetry. If you're using an AMD card, it'll use AMD telemetry. It's multi-vendor and open source, supports all the APIs, DX11, DX12, DX9.
Very
and
not on point
command
for
line
Intel.
folks
Intel's
that are
kind of like
doing,
Sony, where they like locking shit
and,
down, or
it
NVIDIA in
does
this case.
support developers with existing code. So like if you're CapFrameX guy, or
This is more of a pet
you're,
project to the
FrameView from NVIDIA,
engineers
we're
over there
not
when they aren't
stopping
doing
that
anything.
support. It's still available in the GitHub
They
repository.
could, right, they could still integrate.
Yeah, so these pictures over here are what it looks like. There's a little configuration UI. And here is the transparent overlay. You can put it as an overlay, you can stick it in a window, but it's super cool. I really like it. And it's taking a lot of the concepts that we've been talking about, like percentiles.
Sure,
and now GPUs,
integration
and it
module
graphs
for
it in real
Afterburner?
time as you're playing a game.
Like I don't want to have like 5 million things
I
open.
think the closest analog is probably Afterburner or something where you have the
Here every day,
overlay
guys.
and
Yeah.
you have the
Here every
Reva
fucking day.
Statistics server.
Yeah.
And hopefully this has an easier name to say than Reva Tuner
Yeah,
Statistics server.
yeah.
But
PresentMon.
yeah, so this is more consumer-facing side
Yeah.
of if you want metrics while you're
Yep.
playing the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is an SDK.
I actually wish they
for
made a plugin
developers,
for
so we've
Afterburner,
taken
but
all
they
the
probably didn't want to
calculation
be.
stuff that's a little bit of a pain to do, and we've built it into a new service. So you can easily get all the classic PresentMon stuff. Plus, you can get all the averaging and smoothing
integrated with a
and,
third party. It's not even like a
standardizing
like NVIDIA either,
Do you
because
have,
Afterburner or
a next
MSI
step in
is a video
mind?
card manufacturer
What you
slash.
add after this?
I do.
Okay.
Well, you know, it all goes back to those two
Laptop.
blobs we talked about.
You do a couple
GPU
things.
busy and that weight.
Yeah.
And so my hope, and I think the team's working on it now, is how can we do something that's going to break those down and be insightful, right? And the way I think about it is we could find the reasons that we're busy or find the reasons that we're stalled, and that would be multi-vendor, right? It would be looking across all vendors, and then do it like a kind of like a vector of
Not a
delay.
quarter.
And I think that'll help
Oh,
people.
oh, this one, yeah.
Let's do a
Like Afterburner is actually really nice because it's very configurable, and when I'm not running a benchmark, it's actually hiding like a third of the output. Like I still have a latency graph on there, an average, and frequencies. I have a couple things on there, VRAM and memory, so I can tell whether process memory, and VRAM, so I can tell if there's a virtual RAM bottleneck, not
do
virtual
like a
memory,
hypothetical example.
video
If that's
bottleneck, video
integrated.
memory bottleneck.
Can you walk me through? So we have a breakdown of GPU weight. We have either some particularly good or particularly problematic result, and we dive into the metrics that don't exist yet for
Yeah.
GPU weight. What do those look like? You know, how can you?
So if you guys
use
didn't
that
know,
to come to some kind of
what does that do for
Afterburner
you?
supports
Yeah, right?
plugins,
Well, the way
so
I
other
think about it is
manufacturers
I
or
want
people
to
can
help
make
two
stuff for it.
different audiences. One is folks like you and me that want to just appreciate the technology a little bit better, and maybe be
Or maybe
able
it
to
is,
give a little bit more
it might not even be this.
review
It
of
might be,
a particular game.
no.
Or, and look
It's
across
actually Reva
CPUs,
Tuner.
look across GPUs and have a better understanding. But I also want to
Does.
help end users by saying,
There we go.
hey, you know what? This game would run much better if you would just turn down the textures.
Okay.
Because you're seeing memory pressure.
Right.
And we can make it very explicit
memory
how much
Memory
delay
bottleneck,
are you
please.
adding because of memory pressure.
So,
Memory
so
bottleneck,
would that
please.
effectively- Would that present itself as a millisecond number also, each of these things?
Reva
don't
Tuner.
Know, because
Sure.
we're speculating.
Right.
I think if you think about it might be a
Mon.
vector of reasons that are causing delays during these periods of time, and you could do some kind of like pie chart of reasons and see
So you
something
look
like that.
at spent whatever
Yeah.
60% of time working on textures,
Yeah.
maybe lower the
Yeah.
texture quality.
Yeah, and like we could probably do that in real time, so that you would see almost like and you're making me guess of what this thing's going to look like, but
Well,
you know what I'm talking
that's
about,
the
right?
fun
yeah,
part,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But I can totally imagine like a collection of vectors that are sort of showing you where your current bottlenecks and what percentage of time you're bottlenecked. Yeah.
Yeah, so then I guess to try and relate it back to, this is, everything that's already being launched is useful for us in the review community. The interface is useful for end users, but in terms of, I'm looking for everyone watching, like, so why do I care?
Why do I
Great,
care?
you can have better reviews.
Yeah, good for you.
Like I said, what would be good here is if this was integrated into Steam. I think this would be the biggest one is integration with Steam Overlay and possibly Game Bar. I think a lot more people use Steam Overlay FPS than Game Bar. The Steam Overlay, Steam community basically, that's everyone. Like almost everyone has Steam installed, right? So getting integrated with the Steam Overlay would actually be huge, absolutely huge. And they could work with Valve. I bet Valve would do this. If Intel worked with Valve, they would probably integrate this. This is actually really important.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, yeah, but
Getting
how
into
can I use it? So I
the
think
hands of the
I
end
guess
user is where this needs to go.
takeaway there is for people into like settings, tweaking, tuning.
Yeah.
If you bloat a game like Skyrim with a ton of mods or something, you might
Much
have
more
some,
transparency about what's happening.
Right, yeah.
Plus, if you're into telemetry, this is the first time you're going to get calibrated, correlated telemetry aligned with frame information.
I want to, this word telemetry too, to just get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Is Intel taking all this information and sending it to home base?
No.
Okay.
This
I
is just
wanted to clear that now.
This app
I mean-
does not like.
I'm going to go on a limb here and actually say that might not be horrible if they actually form a database. One of the things I've talked about, you can find this maybe if it's the comments. I don't think the comments still exist on Tech Report. Unfortunately, Tech Report used to have a really busy comment section on their news page, like basically where everyone went, not the forums on their news page. I think those were all wiped out. And that's a lot of information that just went down the drain. And it's one of the reasons having like a proprietary system is actually really horrible. I'm pretty sure all the comment section was just completely wiped out. But I've suggested over the years that Steam really should actually do this. They could show you, before you buy a game, they could show you what theoretical performance you would get with a game. And they could make recommendations based on it. Because Steam has access to basically everyone benchmarking their game all at once. And all they have to do is make it so that people opt out of data collection. But if they don't, and you're online, they can easily send stats for what kind of performance, because the game the overlay already measures FPS. If just, like an FPS monitor is not super hard. All they have to do is monitor the FPS in the background to see what kind of performance people are getting on what options, and that wouldn't actually be horrible. Valve could have done amazing things over the years. Amazing things, and I kind of fault them for that because they're just like a retirement community for programmers. I mean, it's great if you're a developer to go there and just retire and work on whatever you want. No one gives a shit. But we're kind of left out on the side here because Steam's been around forever and they basically never change it. It just exists and prints some money. And Intel could. They could actually do this. They could do exactly this. And, whether or not you opt out should be an option for sure, but taking this a step further, they could theoretically just do this, and it would actually be very helpful to gamers. It'd be a good resource, right? Because we don't have stuff like that. We have tech tubers, and tech tubers don't cover every game, and you can't go everywhere. Not that you could depend on a database of results, but it would be much, much more helpful than having absolutely nothing, which is generally what we have, besides cherry-picked results or cherry-picked benchmarks that reviewers go through that might not even be your configuration, right? You might be able to look at a game and you're playing Starfield or whatever, and you realize just having a slightly better GPU would give you infinitely more FPS, right? Or you'd realize everyone with a certain GPU is having problems. This would actually be really, really, really useful in context. The Afterburner could do this too. Most people don't have this installed. I assume maybe the install base for Intel could even be bigger, but Steam is really the big one where you can get into data collection that actually be useful.
Buy and communicate. Plus, it's open source, so
Yeah.
anybody who wants to can look at it and see what's going where. And
Right. Telemetry here, just in the strictest sense of
it's
useful information.
it's information coming from open third-party APIs. So we're not doing any hacking, but MV API for NVIDIA. I think it's called ADL for AMD, and IGCL, Intel Controlled Graphics Library for Intel, which is our open API. So anybody can build apps based on this infrastructure. Anybody can do their own overlays. And as I said, it's all available on GitHub.
Okay,
Steam
so
is kind of
that's
infamous for
overview
just
of
doing
that monitor
nothing.
tool.
Valve
And then
is just
we are
infamous
gonna
for just
do
doing
a
nothing.
walkthrough of the user interface and what it looks like on
A lot of people don't fault them for it, but
video.
they make
My
30%
team
off
produced some
basically
additional
every
information
game or every
as
purchase
well,
through the store.
but
So
otherwise,
they're
I'll
literally
make
just
the
rolling the
walkthrough
money.
as
Is
well.
Valve?
Great to see
They must be a private
And
company.
we'll see you all in the next video.
I'm sure their income is insane. Valve Software. I don't think if they're not a, so problems with numbers like this is if they're not a publicly traded company, they don't report their numbers. 13 billion. It's private, yeah. So this is a website that just makes up random values based on their internal metrics, which may or may not even have any data. So this might be even based off of of some sort of number that was released by Valve years ago, 2011. Estimated 3.4 billion in 2017. 2017 is 3.4 billion. equity is 10 billion. Gabe Newell owns greater than 50% of Valve. Jesus Christ. That means Gabe Newell's a billionaire? Divorced in 96. Well, she fucking missed out. That's like right when Valve was taking off. Yep, she fucking missed out. He has been estimated to be one of the wealthiest people in the United States with net worth of $3.9 billion. Actually looks like he's a big guy, but it actually looks like he kind of went down in weight, which is a good thing. Jesus Christ. Anyways, cool. Oh, fuck me. Did I close the video without posting the message? What the fuck, guys? So I waited till the end to see if there's anything extra to add, but in doing so, I just didn't post the message that I typed out. Well, you know what's great about live streaming on any platform is I can literally cheat time and space by going and looking at the video that I'm making. What the fuck, guys? So I waited till Steam.
If you're simple
Going to continue that rendering.
works,
Brown. But that doing
It's
wasn't.
and graphics are
And it'll be about CPU so it fucks up because Windows
later. Old waiting
cheating, guys. Still remember when I was in college and I forgot to save a paper, and I closed it, or the paper didn't save properly. I don't know which it was, and I closed the window. And I remember looking at the screen, sitting there for maybe a couple minutes, then opening up Word again, and then just literally retyping the whole thing. I think pretty much everyone in college has been there.
have a this is threaded sys complex. Yes.
like improve and present some
Start to understand why and why. Hey, what CPU maybe
fine because the more stuff, the quality, see perspective.
You reference it ever. You watch my videos?
And tech report were front running.
Oh my God.
And so
Cheated, guys. Fucking cheated. However, there is actually more we're going to add. Imagine your performance just being something that anyone could reference. You playing a game would give a benchmark to everyone else that plays that game. And I think it'd be more of an opt-out than an opt-in, to be perfectly honest. You toggle that on, dude, there's millions of Steam users just having that available. And you could weed out the outliers for people that have unhealthy systems. You'd be able to figure out who has an unhealthy system, so obviously they're suffering from a software problem of some kind. And it would also help you to diagnose what's wrong with your computer. Uh, I don't need 5 different performance monitoring tools running at the same time, but maybe I do. You guys like my novel? You guys like my novel? Almost no one's gonna read? Yeah. Another what is it? contacts. Mouse tester. Latency mon. A lot of comments here. This probably isn't going to get read. I'm so cold now, guys. Oh my god, I'm so cold. So, if you guys are curious about my alien mind control device, it's around my neck, so I'm using it to control your thoughts right now. It actually cools down your aortic. I don't normally wear it because it's normally not hot enough right now. We're going through another heat wave in Wisconsin, which is, yeah, you know, whatever. Wildfires in Canada, heat waves in Wisconsin, tsunamis in Los Angeles. Not tsunamis, hurricanes in Los Angeles. What's another good one? Oh, 100-degree water in Florida. Hot tub hot water outside of the Keys, I think it was. Yeah, this actually cools your aortic veins. So the veins that go into your brain, and it cools them down. So, which are big because, you know, your brain sucks up the juice, right? It sucks up the blood. So it cools down your head and basically your entire body, all by cooling your veins. This is not something super uncommon in the military. They have suits, and when they're in Afghan, they have suits that basically are water cooled to keep them cool. There's something very similar, which is, you know, obviously wearing a suit would be very cumbersome, but this cools your veins and then basically cools my entire head. Like it doesn't, my head is actually cooler than the rest of my body right now. Not by a lot, and I'd actually wish this was a slightly warmer than it is. It's on its low setting. I wish it was slightly warmer, but I haven't gotten around to modifying that. Yeah, actually really nice, but I don't normally use it because it's cumbersome and it sucks up my hair, which occasionally happens. I can hear it getting sucked into the little fans in the back. But yeah, actually it does make me cooler. But if you turn it up too high, you basically, you know how you eat ice cream and it's you get a brain freeze? You turn it up too high and you get a brain freeze. So, like I said, there's like this careful line between it being too cold and too just not doing anything at all. And like I said, the lowest setting is not actually low enough. You know, most people are like, oh, turn it up to the highest setting. Yeah, not really. You just need to lower it like a couple degrees, and a little bit too cold in my opinion, which is also unfortunate. It's kind of expensive. People make other ones, but I don't think this one's even sold anymore. There's other. This isn't just like a cold pad or a cold pack, which is another way of doing this, which they aren't really controlled well. Did I post my comment this time, guys? Yes, I did. Glad there's no dildos here. Let's see. Neck cooler. Yeah, this isn't just like a thing you throw in the freezer. This isn't just a fan. It's actually has cold plates on it. It's actually, yeah, these are all this is basic bitch shit. This is not what you're looking for. Not it. There you go. There's a lot of knockoffs now. I bought this a couple years ago. There's a lot of knockoff ones. You want the one with 3 plates on it. It has to cool your aortic veins on the side of your neck and the back of your neck. So it basically needs 3 different pads on it. Also, I dislike how Amazon has switched their ratings to all look like 1 star when it's not. I want people making informed purchases, guys. That drives down, like you have to expand it now. That drives down purchases. I think this is it. Newer one now. I think the one I have is 6ly. Check. Most of the ones are just fans. That's not it. That's not good enough. Amazon. Here's Scamazon. Yes, it was 6 Lee. Sell it anymore. Mine was a lot more expensive. I was like 150 when I bought it. Which isn't a bad thing. That means they're coming down in price, so. One I have, though. Or the brand I have. This only has 2 plates on it. You don't want that. This looks a lot like mine. Almost identical. They're rated very well, guys. Why are they rated well? I think some people were faulting it because you have to have a battery pack. Yeah, you attach to the side of your neck. It just adds more weight. I'd rather have a battery pack instead of an integrated battery. A lot of these are rated pretty poorly. Fans, maybe. You can replace them, I suppose. They're really small ones. Device transmits heat. I mean, it does. Heat all pushes away from the side of your head, though. Like, the fans actually... So, because it's a cold plate, that means it uses electricity. But it sucks the heat away from your neck, away from the cold plate on the back of it, because they do heat up. Definitely not a few seconds. I don't know what this guy's... Maybe he has a default, like a defective one. Like, my face right now is definitely a lot colder than it was, and I kind of have a little bit of an ice cream headache, but not really. Like, right up here, you know, the little guy you get in the center of your forehead. Refreshing, but not enough to counteract the heat that emits from the device. Disagree. Completely disagree. Why are you talking about Blue Beetle 2 Slain? There's a guy in chat that was like obsessed with Blue Beetle on YouTube. It's kind of weird how like my podcast goes, guys. Like my YouTube chat is more active when I'm playing games, and my Kick chat's more active when I am podcasting. Back to the Blue Beetle. There isn't a Blue Beetle review yet. There. I mean, we'll probably watch it tomorrow. This isn't a big deal. Also, not going to spend all night in the podcast section. I want to take a look at that. We aren't going to do that tonight. Oh. Paul's Hardware covering drama. Good. We cover drama, too. Game of Thrones awful final episode. Oh, I ranted, guys, when Game of Thrones ended. When season, like, I think it was in the second episode in, whatever the long night was, the end with Battle with the Lich King, or the Night King. When that happened, I ranted on stream for 4 hours about how horrible it was. Literally, it saved my YouTube. It has literally saved my YouTube. There has not been a single series, it is in infamy, guys, there's not a single series that went from the highest high to the lowest low. Not a single series. Like, some of them just pop and fizzle. Yeah, they literally went from, I had like no expectations going in, and gradually had expectations. It went from the pinnacle of television to, hey, look, this is another, was it the Chronicles of Narnia or some stupid shit. It was horrible. It was horrifying. And I remember still reading social media, and we covered some of the social media, and people were like, oh my god, you see what Arya did to the Night King? Wow, this is so amazing. They're so amazing because they expect it to be good. Like, it just goes to show you just like how people trend and how much they just rely on social signals to come up with their own opinion on really anything, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, like, they should have just ended it. Like, a lot of times what happens in anime is they'll do their own ending, but then they'll reboot it. Like, they'll do a reboot and then recreate it, right? Or they'll just end the series and put it on hiatus. It depends on what's going on. In the rare case, they just keep running it as long as the manga's running, like One Piece, and do a really horrible job with the anime. You can say what you want about liking One Piece, but they stretch out basically, I think it's one one volume per episode, one chapter per episode. One of the two. It's really stretched out. It's like really thin. Where normally they run through, I think it's one chapter. Normally they run through 3 to 4 chapters per episode, or it's 3 to 4 volumes. I don't remember which it is per episode. Walking Dead sank fast. Walking Dead, I think, burned out. That popped and fizzled. And it didn't really go down the same way as Game of Thrones did. Like, they kind of, you could tell what's happening when they start killing off primary casts. Yeah, but, you know. Then Wheel of Time happened, and Amazon wrecked that. I mean, at least, at the very least, the first season was terrible, so it wasn't really outside the ordinary. Let's take a look at the Reddits here, guys, and then we're going to play some Gamazes. Hey, this hero stopped getting a skin every minute. No, apparently she's really popular. As with a lot of games, they just make skins for whatever the most popular character is, because that's how they make money. Stop making skins! What? You make money on Blizzard! Stop making skins, you make money on Blizzard! Stop making skins for heroes that are popular, Blizzard. I know you make money on this. Don't do it. Please. Stop making money. I mean, why supply and demand? What the fuck is wrong with people? I mean, it has a lot of upvotes, too. 1,300 elite upvotes, guys. Why are there so many posts complaining about the 50 win to play ranked requirement? Probably because it requires people to... Probably cheaters and smurfs. That's my guess. Not easier, less balanced. Yep, pretty much everyone that complains about Smurfs, guys, it's not Smurfs. There's only so many top 500 players. There's a shitload of cheaters. Pretty common in Overwatch. Everyone's a Smurf. No, there's just a lot of cheaters. There are Smurfs, don't get me wrong, but most people just cheat. That's how you become, like, you could +5 to your rank, or +2? +2 to your rank. There we go. So if you're a master, you are now top 500, and if you're a diamond, you're now a GM. Yeah, my face right now is like a popsicle. Not completely like a popsicle. It's getting there, though. Like, it gets uncomfortable after a while, but it's nice at first. Let's see. Driver overhead, we're going to look at that probably tomorrow. Okay. Alrighty. DVD Reddits. Weekends are kind of sparse, guys. Sparse. Memes. Okay. Nothing of interest. Alright, guys, I'm going to go wash my coffee cup out, and then we are going to... Oh, I got coffee grounds in my mug. We are going to play... Yep, I'm done. Done. It's good enough. Oh, speaking of which... This is right here anyways. I just replaced the battery in my FLIR. Found out you can actually, found a way to tear it apart. So the battery lasts more than 10 minutes now. But I can easily show you. Yeah. Is there anything I want to hide? Not really. You see that? Oh yeah, you can see that your glasses block infrared. How can I do this? You can literally see the side of my neck. I can't actually get that on there. Yeah, I can. See the, the fucking dark spot on the side of my neck? That's actually much colder. And if I show you guys the pads... Oh yeah, look at that. Does work. They do work. But it is 23 Celsius. Mainly because I use this for text, so I have it in non-human metrics. Pretty cold. FLIR cameras are phenomenal. If you do anything related to battery lasts a pretty long time too. Look at that. Still at 4. Add it on for like an hour. Okay, I gotta watch my coffee cup out, guys. Be right back. Alrighty, guys. Let's do the do. Very chill. Long podcast. A lot to cover there. Very cool. Usually hardware release cycles are only where you see some tech stuff. I don't even think that's... Like, you couldn't find that on Linus's channel, so... Okay. Alrighty. pretty good games last night. Surprisingly, even though I'm streaming. And my stream was all sorts of fucked up yesterday, too. I probably should actually go through and clean up all the fragments. I haven't done that yet, though.
When I'm hitting my shots, you can't touch me.
Ah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I know you guys want it. I know you want it.
Prepare for battle. Select your hero.
Yep. Alrighty. How many cheaters are we gonna get tonight, guys? Let's find out. Not always, but sometimes a good indicator immediately is the 1 prestige. It is very, very easy to get prestige too. Horseman 2.
Great strike from above. No mistakes. No mercy. Five, 4, 3, 2,
Mm-hmm. Good, good, good.
objective aerial positioning underway. I'm here.
Where's the healing? Oh, yeah. Personal heal bot, guys.
Got the robot.
Phenomenal.
Starting the beam to the air.
And he hit me with the helix while being pushed through the air. But yeah,
Always more to learn.
already got someone that's questionable. Good.
On the move.
For sure. So your FPS isn't just how fast you can see stuff. It's also how fast the engine processes things in the backgrounds, including your input. You want to have that fastest human possible FPS, assuming you aren't limited by things like
Enemy here. We're ahead. Don't let that change.
fuck off, soldier.
System repair. Whoa! I'm actually on fire. I need healing. Up and away. I see an enemy. Just cutting down on the glare. Nerf this.
Ah, okay, Diva. Okay.
Enemy over here. En route.
She just turned and looked as that missile just went into her face. That's great.
Taking off. Dispersing.
But anyways, you want as high as FPS as possible, assuming there's no other limitations or an engine bug, which might cause you to actually get worse performance at higher FPS, which used to be a thing in Overwatch. Used to have higher input lag at higher FPS, which is fucking weird. Oh. Good.
They took the robot. We need to attack.
And by the way, like, wandering out, it's one of the easiest ways to just die out of nowhere is literally just taking aggro before the team fight's downs. Like, if people are cheating, or even without cheating, they will attempt to kill you while you are alone. Oh yeah. The May actually dropped the wall intentionally too. Like she was happening and dropped it. Good for her. A May that's not trying to sabotage your game? Wow. Not sabotaging, just knowing what to do. There we go. But yeah, you always want to have as high as FPS as possible. Assuming you have problems with temp, there's, you know, all sorts of weird conundrums you could come up with. Oh, now we get an echo. Fucking fuck your healing pylon. Fucking Echo just went and stood in their mail.
Let's show him some air power.
There's always people that say you have to have everything synchronized though. You have to have, there's no reason to have higher FPS than your monitor refresh rate, and that's bullshit. Engine's always working even if you can't see it. Don't want to get booped again. So as long as you don't take damage, you don't get sun fucked, so. Like, do I want to kill two of them? Maybe. I probably should have went in and forced a respawn. If they have to walk further than I do, then it's a win. 1v1, it's a win, assuming they aren't, you know, apples to apples, but they could be doing more or less than you are in the game, but always getting a pick is usually useful if they have to walk further. Like, do I just go in? Why the fuck did he come back? He actually survived that. Why did he come back? Like, he was so confident about that block, he's like, fuck this Pharah. Like, if you hit a shitload of rockets, guys, Pharah does a boatload of damage when she's ulting. It's all about getting good angles, though. And living. If you can't do either of those, then it's kind of pointless.
Barricade is pushing forward. Enemy over here. On their way.
Oh, we don't want the Mercy to res. What she's gonna do.
Shake it off.
Not doing back act-wise, guys. We got some direct hits, too.
Establishing aerial position.
Want her to res.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Echo might be cheating, not sure yet. So what Echoes will do when they're cheating is they'll just try and do a cooldown dump. Yeah, this guy's cheating. Echoes will try and do a cooldown dump on you where they'll usually come over some sort of obstacle when you aren't looking at them, or even when you're looking at them, because you won't be ready, and they'll dump all their cooldowns, which will land on you perfectly, and then you'll instantly explode. It's like a Widowmaker. And I guess my hog.
Positioning underway.
Those guys should respawn. Oh, they don't need to, I guess.
The barricade.
So you can generally tell someone's cheating when it's perfect leads, especially if it snaps to lead points, which is what this guy's doing here. So you'll see any sort of small movement, you'll see the aim go like this all over the screen, and it doesn't look organic at all, because it's not. It's an aimbot. But I expected there to be more people there. There was not. Self-preservation tank. And as far as like anti-air goes, Echo is just a better Pharah. It's easier to hit your abilities, and more of them are geared towards actually. More of them are geared towards anti-air. Good. Pull off tank. Pull off the point. Well, they're fucking with me. My teammates should hopefully finish them off. They did not. Not exactly sure how the tank survived for so long with our tank and another DPS and 2 healers, but you know. We pushed the healers off, so they're just fucking with me, as well as other DPS we killed. Okay. Never fear. Alright, so the Echo is definitely cheating. We'll take a look at possibly the Tracer. Yeah, this guy's cheating. Our Mei actually had more damage, so it's possible our Mei was cheating too, but we aren't going to look at her because we have no leads, so it doesn't matter. This guy. Dashing for a little bit. PM. Master. E. When did he buy his gaming chair? Can we find out? Oh. Like season 2 is when he bought his gaming chair. Good for him. A big difference though. Probably means he sucks at positioning and actually playing the game, but has great aim. Good for him. He had a mercy heal bot like the entire match too. Although we were also getting healed for a little bit. Happy Satsun chat. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. Good, good, good. So potentially we could stream to Kick at 120 FPS, but it doesn't have the bitrate to support 120 FPS. And that chews up a shitload of resources. Streaming resources. I have like, technically I could stream in like a 80 megabits per platform, but that wouldn't be any productive.
Strike from above.
Hey, from last game? Maybe. Oh, I used to play May all the time in OW1. She used to be one of my other mains. A main? Oh! I don't play her at all like in OW2 because she sucks. People say, oh my god, Owl has it, but that basically depends on people having no idea how to break walls. For some strange reason, when you imbibe a shitload of Adderall, it doesn't help you assess situations very well, so. And then you do things like C9 because you forget about the point because you are hyper-focusing on shooting a pixel. Another form of cheating. Oh my god. Nice. Apparently there's an underside? Good.
Returning to battle.
I didn't know there's an underground entrance. By the way, guys, I'm a huge, pretty big fan of the new game mode, mainly because it makes the game more complicated. And I didn't think it would matter, but there is apparently a shitload of people that have problems with more complicated game modes. Like, they can't do it. It doesn't work for them. Like, their brain is unable to comprehend actually having to maneuver around the map. It is great. Oh.
Enemy here. Claiming the objective. I require. I need healing.
What?
Keep it together.
The fuck? Yeah. Sombra's gonna come back for sure.
Repositioning. Increasing altitude.
Oh! Oh! Did I just save my team? I think I did. Nice. I ruined your plans. Seems pretty, pretty on point with the... I think they killed their translocate. Yeah, they did. I saw it.
I see an enemy. I require healing.
Fucking Awari.
I'm completely warmed up.
Ah, the healing bot. I love the healing bot. More successful at healing Pharah? Oh! He is super fucking lucky. That Reinhardt did not do that on purpose. You just happen to turn it exactly the right angle to shield the McCree.
Taking off.
That was totally not intentional. We need to get back to the rest of the team so we don't die alone.
Issuing an alert.
Still back there, as is the Mercy. It went. You die. Oh, they moved around the map already? Translocator.
Enemy here. Taking to the air. Concussive out. I see an enemy.
Yeah.
Flash over here. Positioning. I'm on top of the world. Justice rains from above.
Considering how useful your ult is as Pharah, I've actually just been starting to use it for shit like that because it's really fucking stupid, and potentially it saved us from having a really horrible snowball if the Mercy actually survived and killed everyone.
Securing the objective. Dispersing. Group up with me.
And my E just despawned. So, if you guys didn't know, Pharah's E gets cancelled by stuns, or it has like a cast time. It gets cancelled by stuns or things like Sombra's hack. If I get hooked as by a hog, my missile despawns. Even if it's in the air, it'll disappear. Which doesn't make sense.
Over there. Over there. Converge on the objective.
Okay, I guess we're going this way. Yeah.
Establishing aerial position. Over here.
Our McCree friend is extremely accurate, which is why I didn't want to go away from the tank.
There is more to learn.
Probably because he's cheating. But don't know.
They outnumber us. Keep it tight.
Lost.
Eh,
Next flashpoint.
I wonder how the algorithm works, 'cause this is really close to us. Interesting, there might be different ways of... Damage fall off, good.
In 10 seconds.
Where the fuck's the turret?
And away.
No. McCree again. Did he actually even try to shoot me?
I don't stay down.
Definitely looked like he just tried to kill me out of that shit mob. So nowhere, guys. Couldn't even see my health bars. He was one shot, though. Got the Mercy. That's actually better than killing the McCree. He knew I was at full charge. Mercy didn't know. Pretty sure the McCree's cheating.
Taking to the air. Health restored. En route.
Yeah. Fucking Sombra for some reason has a problem with me. Being an annoying dick. It's one of the most annoying things you can do to a Pharah. Because you can't fly when you're hacked. Very annoying.
Healing pylon out. See an enemy.
Nice. Pretty sure McCree friend's cheating. Still won that too. He hits literally 2 times the damage of the GTS on our team. And basically never went to the game, never went to the point. It's anti-cheat for Adderall. Yeah, like that fucking McCree. Actually, I don't actually want to go to the point. I never wanted to go to the point. I don't want to do that. I want to go to the point. Alright. Let's take a peek here. He was very, very accurate about a minute and a half of the match.
Ready for battle.
What? I did save my entire team. Oh, that pissed him off so bad. His aim is so fucking all over the place. And then he just started... Like he doesn't... Something you'll notice, like, when you start going down in terms of player skill, which obviously an aimbot will absolutely inflate your skill, is sometimes it looks like people don't know where they're supposed to aim. And they'll, like, lose focus on who they're trying to kill and just start trying to kill someone else. Fucking weird. Even when they basically have aim assist. This right here, the Reinhardt accidentally blocked McCree. This was not intentional. This was not organized. He turned to the side just a tiny little bit, and it happened to block McCree, who would have otherwise died, and he would have died too because it would have. I would have broke his shield and killed him because Farazal can break Reinhardt's shield and kill him. This right here is the only reason he survived, and that was not intentional. The Reinhardt has no idea the guy was there. It looks like he has percent miss.
Thanks.
Okay.
Put it on my tab. us outnumbered. Keep that in mind.
Keep in mind, this guy had 2 times as much damage as either DPS on our team, which included me. Had a mercy heal bot the entire game. Possibly knew the Rhyme was there, which is why I tried to take high ground to shoot him.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks, Doc.
I like how some people are like, I hate this map. Oh, I fucking love this. I wish there's more game types. I hope there's more new complicated game types that really make the derps in this game have like no idea what they're doing. It's pretty clear some people have, they just, most of the game modes in Overwatch are straight lines. You literally just go down a path and the 2 teams meet. There's very, very, very few maps where you actually have an open field in which you have to pick and choose where you approach the enemy from. Even if those straight lines have an alternate path that goes to, you know, the same point, they're very, very, very linear. This map is not. And as such, apparently some people are like literally on rails where they can't figure out where to go or what to do, or how to position themselves. One of the reasons I liked Heroes of the Storm so much is because it forced dynamic team fights. The team fights weren't always in the same spot at the same time because the assets on the map were always in the same spot. It forces to, depending on where people are organized, depending on when the objectives pop, actually makes for extremely dynamic player field. And I love it because it seems like some people like strategy is very important in gaming. Sounds like some people have, you can aim at a pixel all you want, you can play Kovacs all you fucking want, but yeah, some people aren't necessarily smart when it comes to knowing where they're supposed to go. He's actually flicking away from targets right now. Hit Ryan. Alright, Ryan. He's actually flicking away from the targets, causing him to miss. He's like he's actually flicking his wrist like the opposite direction of the target. Also something I've noticed that happens with cheaters. It's like they get confused as to whether or not the aimbot's flicking for them, so then they try flicking and actually ruin their own shots. It's really fucking weird. Like the flick, like the line drawing to the character is like linear, and then the flick away from the character has deviation to it, which is why you can tell it's the actual player's aim. Relatively linear. You know, obviously, if someone's turning right this, the aimbot's going to turn too, right? So it's not going to be a straight line. Your jets. Now he's just hitting every shot. He's just gonna keep hitting all the shots, yeah. I miss holding it.
Double kill.
Thanks, Doc. Left yourself wide open.
Double kill.
Thanks, Doc. I'm just settling.
Why does he hate the tank so much? How's your evening going, Idwin? Happy set sun to you. How's your morning going, actually? Also, just because people are tanks doesn't necessarily mean they know what they're doing. How the fuck did I get pointed? Oh, the Sombra. Yeah. Oh, he's missing everything. Looks like he's flicking away from targets again. So I don't know if this is like the aimbot's doing this, or if he's intentionally, like, not intentionally, like, player skills just causing him to miss with an aimbot. Like, he thinks he's gonna flick and the aimbot's gonna take over and take it to a target, but instead he's actually just flicking away from the target because he has, like, no motor control or something. Like, he doesn't actually know what the aimbot's gonna aim at, so he just kind of flicks in a general direction and thinks there's gonna be a player there.
That'll do fine.
Attack the objective. Right away. Next flashpoint, the ducks.
Clearly not actually looking at the Zen.
Thank you, my friend.
That'll be the point. I really hope they add the point to the observer mode.
Thanks. Put it on my tab.
Unlocks in 10 seconds.
I don't think I'd care that much about a new game mode. I think this is phenomenal, though. I really, really hope they add more game modes in the future. It's pretty clear, like I said, that some people just don't understand how to do game modes. Like, I'm sure they will with time as tutorials and shit come out, but like positioning, people are just all over the place sometimes.
Thanks, Doc.
Pretty good mail. Not that it matters, everyone gets all the mail anyways. May 100% needs to be buffed again. She needs to, like, be turned back into her original character. Like nothing without her freeze, because the freeze was a setup for the icicle.
Oh, that'll do fine.
They, like, tried to make her old character without doing it. It doesn't work.
Maintaining damage boost.
He either doesn't have a wall hack or he's extremely careful from the looks of it. See, like, so every cheat knows when you are full charge. So some people even have a heads-up display like this will be on the sides of the screen, like you're playing WoW Arena or something, which is actually incredibly helpful. They'll actually have like nameplates up on the side of the screen. You can see alt charge on them, or sometimes they'll have like debuff icons, basically like WoW Arena. It's actually pretty incredible. It's almost like you're playing a completely different game. And as such, you can expect people, like what you'll see happen is if you apply pressure as Pharah, many people are not very good at keeping track of ults besides the first one at the beginning of the game. And this guy knew exactly what I was doing before I did it because he knew I was at full charge. The Mercy did it. The Mercy was completely oblivious.
Barrels are smoking.
He died, which is worth because she can't res anyone anymore, and he lost his damage boost. Killing a healer, big deal. Killing a tank is an even bigger deal. He's just going through a bunch of misses again.
Where was I?
Hello. Right by you. Boosting your damage.
Much obliged.
That's the end of the game anyways. Like, yeah, we didn't even do that great as far as damage goes. Mei is not really super amazing at damage either. So the fact that I tied her, not too good. A damage. Or limbs, he wasn't in the right spot at the right times. He wasn't positioning properly. He didn't try to push the point at all, even though he had a heal bot. It's something you see with lower skill players where they'll actually flick away from their snaps, which doesn't really make sense, but here we are. Good. Alright, next game. We're gonna play games, guys. Oh my god, I love playing games and not just watching them. Gonna keep happening, guys, up until AI anti-cheat. It's just gonna be the way that it is.
Justice reigns from above.
Very easy to cheat at video games.
Touch the sky. Justice reigns from above. Well deserved. Justice reigns from above. Heat check confirmed. Justice reigns from above. Swish. Blasted. Taking off. Where's your
Felt like it should have hit.
jetpack? Justice.
Next game.
Prepare to attack.
Can't wait for AI anti-cheat. Like, there's no way, there's absolutely no way that game companies, especially small ones, can keep up with the onslaught of cheaters. It's only AI anti-cheat is the only thing. It's the behavior that cheaters exhibit. It's the only way to catch them. You can't constantly dig for the cheats. Some you can't even catch anymore. Like, there's no way. Like DMA cheats, which involve using an FPGA. So a custom piece of hardware you put in your computer to cheat for you. Yeah, like there's no way. If you have custom firmware for it, there's like no way cheats can catch it. Anti-cheat can catch it.
When are you coming back for good?
I'm trying, Fabiha. Please be patient with me.
I've been patient for years. What's a little while longer?
หมากัด อย่ากัดตอบ I wish violence
Sorry,
never
but
solved
I
anything.
need to jet.
It would make peace so much easier.
Not one to rouse.
Affirmative. Hello.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Sorry,
One.
but I need to check.
commencing.
The air.
Gonna die to a widow?
Scott,
Enemy over here.
Oh, he just fucked up. Genji will remember this. Genji will remember this. Genji is just like Doomfist love fucking dicking on Pharahs.
Aerial positioning underway. See an enemy. Enemy over here. Enemy here. See an enemy. Increasing altitude. Enemy over here.
Ooh.
Needs only to lose. Trust me.
Passive out. Enemy here.
If people get the Pharah jet or missile cadence down just right, it is incredibly hard. Incredibly fucking hard to shoot them. It's something to do with desync, or I don't know exactly what it is, but it's very difficult to shoot them sometimes. Anna seem especially good at it. I don't know, maybe it's something with the model. Yeah.
The skies away.
Life protects life.
On the move. They outnumber us. Keep it tight.
Genji will remember this.
Aerial positioning.
He thought I was gonna walk out into that. That's weird. Gonna get it just right, guys. Pre-aim. Pretty sure this guy's cheating. Wasn't on me either. I expected her to pre-aim me. She pre-aimed the life weaver is chasing her behind the wall.
Come on, team.
Expected dynamite. There it is. Might as well. Genji smelled. Blood in the water. Give me that healing. That's not good. And insanely accurate Ash again. Cheating. Pre-aim was pretty spot on though when you see people directly tracking other people behind walls and there's no real indicator, especially at Z height. It's a pretty good indicator people are, yeah, tank need to come back. Pretty good indicator people are cheating. Try to time the E. You have to hit an E like literally right when they're about to swing. This guy's for sure cheating though. Hey look, he has double our damage too. Wow. Filling up the walls. All my best missiles are getting fucking eaten too. That's not helping things. That's not evident yet. Getting the... See if we can get Diva's attention. Yep. He actually looked away right away. That's what we want. We're dead. Pink ran out of shield.
Making another approach.
We almost got insta-give, guys. We generally deal with pretty much anything except fucking 2 taps. Depending on the timing, it is incredibly hard to actually 2 tap. What a dumbass. I think the end result was she was supposed to jump back up with her carriage gun, coach gun.
Enemy over here. Positioning.
Nice. No, couldn't get behind the wall soon enough. Also, Anna, if you don't time things properly. What's going on with his aim? Well, that's new.
The skies await.
Row, Scooby! Do we have two now? No. Just a fucking walking turret, guys. Maybe one hit reg in there? Not hit reg issue. Cool. Let's see.
Strike from above. Aerial positioning underway. 60 seconds.
I'm gonna cut him backwards and hopefully our teammates can push in. Thanks, dead. This guy's 100% cheating.
Okay, my head.
Like direct tracking behind walls. Good stuff.
30 seconds
Yep.
remaining.
Time is short. Press forward.
The guy's name Hera? Is it a Zim player? It is. Ah.
10 seconds.
Life protects life หมากัดกัดต่อ
Play of the game.
What the fuck is... What? Are these guys all... Like, they trying to gaslight me? So, if you guys didn't know, this is the cross-platform symbol right here. Which means they're either on console or Steam. I'm pretty sure Steam will still count, like, it'll show normally. This is a cross-platform player. These are all cross-platform players. So these are console players using Zims. That would explain the Genji, too. When we started seeing the weird shit, it's probably a Zim fucking up. These are all console players. This means they're grouped with someone in the lobby. Were they all trying to gaslight me, too? Yeah, that's one. And they all, by the way, have keyboards plugged in so they can chat. Look at this. The guy actually admits he's on a controller, while his friend is trying to gaslight me into thinking that we're only playing with PC players. So these guys are all grouped together. And this guy's trying to gaslight me while his friend is admitting to being on a controller. And the other guy as well, also part of their group, the Butt Buds. Council tanks. I mean, we had an Anna that was a tank. Yeah, so this is so we're gonna report this as a Zim squad. These new accounts? No. Yeah, you can see they're on fucking council. Yeah, so almost all top 500 on console is Zim users. Like, it's almost completely Zim users. And people can say what they want about, you know, doing well on a gamepad. That's bullshit. It's almost always exclusively Zim users. Zims basically allow you to use aim assist with a keyboard and mouse. So, yeah, imagine having aim assist with a keyboard and mouse. Yeah. So we don't know who's in the group because I didn't check before the game ended because I didn't actually check at all. Anna is definitely also cheating. Or, I mean, using a Zim, it's not really... It's a cheat, but it's not a cheat. What did Anna do? You definitely cannot play Anna with a gamepad. It's another Zim user. And the Mercy could just be a gamepad user. Don't know. And they're definitely... So this is a 4-3 squad, but there's definitely a fourth in here that they're grouped with, which is probably another guy that's sticking up for him. Did any of the other guys talk? Yeah. We are in PC lobby. So this is also... This is probably the fourth, and this guy might just be just a rando. Genji remains... Did he talk at all? You can literally, by the way, almost immediately tell who's in a squad together based on who just jacks each other off. Maybe a 5 squad. This guy Lamau at the end here too. I think it was so. Like, the weird thing is, guys, like people always jump to the conclusion of bad teammates, despite the fact we were literally playing against Zim users here. Let's actually take a look here. Another one? Yeah, there's more than likely another Zim user. Maybe with a bot account too. Oh, what the fuck? Yeah? When did they buy their Zim? Season 3. There's a lot. I've noticed recently, guys, there's a lot of people that start cheating and they get their gaming chair in Season 3. For some strange reason. I don't know what happened in Season 3, but that's basically when they all started getting weird. Not all. There's a decent number that's appearing right now, so it could either be when people chose to sell accounts, maybe when they got compromised, or when the person just decided to start cheating. Yeah, so a couple of them started trying to gaslight me. And some of the other ones told me that they're in control. Oh. What is this? Still a gold. Is this a Genji? Hank. Did he buy this guy's account? Definitely was not a gold and silver, bronze, silver, gold player. By the way, your MMR does not reflect, that was the diva. This is the diva that was eating my shit while people were running away. This is not, either this is someone else's account or they just bought it. This is not a gold diva. And they would not be playing in the lobbies wearing right now if they're gold or silver. This is a GM Genji. Didn't actually look all that strange except for one moment where his aim was wigging out and just flying over. But there is some questionable antics here. as far as placements go. Season 3 again. You guys are all grouped together. End of Season 2, beginning of Season 3. Alright. Well, that's fun. Okay, we're going to call things here this evening, guys. We got some games in here. Longer than normal podcast section. Had some cool stuff to cover tonight as far as benchmarking goes. Pretty cool stuff. I really hope it's integrated into Afterburner at some point, so I don't need to run 5 million different programs. You can make plugins or for Riva Tuner, so I can just add it to Afterburner. Alrighty. We're going to call things here for this evening, guys. If you're into the stream, you enjoy the bullshit, you enjoy the fun, you enjoy the podcast section, or perhaps you enjoyed me going through and watching cheaters, or maybe just like the gameplay, make sure the follow button on your select platform. I stream to Kick, Facebook, as well as YouTube every day from late night to early morning, GMT -6, so about 11 p.m. Central Standard Time to 4 a.m., give or take. It depends on my life, what's happening, etc., etc., guys. I am out here for this evening, guys. Tomorrow will be more of the OW2s, though. Yeah, good. But alrighty, guys, we're going to call things here. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderfully fantastic Saturday night and Sunday morning. Have a good day, guys.